You're listening to The Disc Golf Show.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to The Disc Golf Show, episode number 2 for the 2025 season. See what we did there? See what we're doing? Today is the 28th of January, all day long. And hopefully, if everything's gone right, the day that you're listening or watching this. My name is Justin. With me today is that guy.
Nick, that's me.
That is you. Today, the show is going to be a little different. We've revamped the structure, if you will. Hang with us. You'll see what we mean. But before we get there and into our first kind of change as we've resegmentized everything, let's talk about something up front that we always like to do. And for good reason, because this show is brought to you in part by Final 9 Sports. And they have 2 locations, one in Rockland, one in Orangevale. And if you can't stop in there, the message is support local, because you should.
Mm-hmm.
So do it. Also, special today's show, and going forward, hopefully into the far, far future, we have another sponsor that we'd like to bring your attention to, because guess what? It's another way for you to save money. We'll touch on this again. So if you can't jot it down now, or if you don't remember, I'll remind you. Have no fear. And it's going to lead to other new things with the show. What am I talking about? Let's get into it. We have a new partial sponsor for the show, and they are Disc Golf Deals USA. And they've given us an affiliate code for y'all to use. So if you're looking at the show notes on the audio version of the podcast, or you're watching this or listening to this on YouTube, check in the description down below for the link. You click on that link, you go to their site, you buy some cool stuff because you can't do local for the things that you need. We understand. Now there's a way that you can go online and still save yourself some money if you can't support local, and save yourself 10% off. So use that link down below. discgolfdealsusa.com/discgolfshow is the link. Click on that bad boy. It'll take you there, and you get 10% off your entire purchase. And we want to thank them for also being a sponsor of the show. And let me hint for you. There's going to be a new thing that we're doing this year that they're a major part of. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. There's a lot more news of that coming. But speaking of news, let's roll into the news, shall we, Nick? There's a lot of people saying news.
Who said that?
A lot of people saying
What
news.
was that?
I don't know. Lots of people. Walter Cronkite. No, he wasn't in there.
Here's the problem. Had we known this one day earlier,
as it happens, right? As it happens.
we could have announced it last show. So the first thing we want to discuss is, you've probably heard about this. Big Jerm, who had announced he left Innova, or parted ways with Innova, the day after our last show, he announces that he signed a 4-year contract with MVP Discs. So this is going to be cool. I think it's one of those things that gets the players a new breath of excitement.
Yeah.
He has had a couple videos discussing it. You know, he's made a couple videos out there with Simon and MVP, obviously, stating that it's kind of revived his excitement for the sport, because he gets to learn it all over again, which is kind of cool. And his first signature disc is going to be the Particle Glow Proton Tempo. So if you're an MVP fan, a Gyronaut, I think judge. Is one of those sayings. You're going to know more about that than me. So, but yeah, Particle Glow Proton Tempo for Big Jerm at MVP, that being his new sponsor. So big shout out to him. Hopefully he does good things there. I know he's a big personality across the board, with doing the announcements and stuff for the tour and things like that for the Jomez Pro. So
right.
You know,
I think that's cool too. That's something you don't think about. If you go to a new company, you know, unless it's very few companies that work with each other, you're learning all new discs.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Well,
I like that kind of stuff.
But it's his access and his what's the word I'm looking for? He has more than just playing. He even said that, you know, he may not be winning every event or anything like that. Most likely not, because, you know, But he's out there outside of playing. He's constantly there. So that's good for MVP.
Right. Yeah. It's the presence of the big Jerm. In other news, Gavin Rathbun and Jake Hebenheimer sign with Prodigy, which is interesting because we've had a lot of exodus and now we have a lot of introtus. I don't know what the opposite of that is, but they are being introduced into Prodigy. They have joined the team.
Yeah, so they aren't losing a bunch of people. They've lost some people, but they're filling those gaps a little bit here and there, and we'll see that over the years as well as to what they're going to dial in on. But also there has been other movement in other manufacturers. One of them is like not necessarily leaving or joining, but just movement in the tiers. Brody Smith re-signed with Discraft for 2025, but he's not on the elite team. He's on the tour team now. Another thing to note on that is that Corey Ellis is moving to the tour team instead of the elite team. So there's definite with Discraft. Obviously, you've seen them just grab a bunch of people, but they're adjusting within themselves too. They're adjusting that stuff, which is interesting to see.
Yeah, the shifting between tiers.
Oh yeah,
interesting note.
Yep.
Interesting note. Speaking of that note, on a different note, Paul Macbeth has actually switched his footwear line and is now sponsored by Vessi, which is interesting because I think we were talking about this before the show. I think he was wearing Adidas, however you want to say that, beforehand. But like we were saying, wasn't really talking about it a lot, or at least we weren't seeing him talk about it a lot. But now with Vessi, it's interesting.
Yeah, well, Isaac is sponsored by Vessi.
I like Vessi too.
So yeah,
yes,
waterproof, knitted. They're super comfortable. Yes. They're a great shoe. It's a great option.
I love my Vessis. Like I can't say enough good about them. And I've gone through quite a few different disc golf shoes. I've done the Keens. I've done a lot. I've done just straight up Merrills at one point that were not tailored to disc golf at all. I'm more of a hiking shoe and don't go that route.
Yeah,
too much grip.
Yeah,
but the Vessis are fantastic. Can't say enough about them. Oh, yeah. I want the high tops though.
And then the high tops. I think they're called Stormburst. I believe is their high tops. Super comfortable. Again, that knitted feel is super comfortable. Yeah. Cool to hear that Vessi's investing more. They obviously they're getting a return with Isaac. So
absolutely.
Shout out to Macbeth joining that team. We do have an update. Kona is still, Kona Montgomery is still active on her social media, and she's had some ups and downs health-wise. So she has, if you didn't watch, she said she had some additional surgery that's possibly gonna need to be taken care of. We do hope everything goes smoothly with that.
Absolutely.
And hopefully is back on the course. I mean, she was, before all this health stuff, she was a big name. And that's why DD signed her, her and Ricky at the same time. So I am curious as to how present she'll be this year, when she'll be able to actually jump back into the tour, and how her growth will change in the events coming up, because I think it's hard to deal with something like that, health issues, and then come back super strong. Like, we are seeing a lot of, not a lot of injuries, but we are seeing specific injuries within disc golf. And now that those are being kind of more regular onto what you think may be an issue, that's going to be something that people are going to definitely have to address in the off season to build strength, so that way they have less of a likelihood of having those injuries. Obviously hers were completely separate off the field, but that's, I mean, we hope she has a speedy recovery.
I was trying to write in a note while you were talking and I couldn't get it out fast enough. It's mine. Don't you take it. It's mine next.
All right.
Shout out to Chandler. Why do I keep trying to say Chandler?
I don't know.
He's swinging from the chandelier. Chandler Fry for winning the first Tour Tour Down Under 2025 event. That's super cool. GoThro has coverage on their YouTube channel, so check that out. It is awesome. The first Tour Down Under of 2025.
There's a bunch of
cool.
competitors down there too. Several competitors that
Don't
went down to
discount.
that. Yeah, so that'll be neat. Talking about winning. Well, actually, before we get to that, I guess, because there's some stuff that happened recently this weekend. So if you haven't heard, last year I think it was only Disc East that happened. It's an expo. It's basically the only real big expo that's happening. And Disc East Expo was just held this last weekend. A lot of the pros were there. Brixton, a lot of the manufacturers. Disc Golf Deals USA made a stop over there to check it out because hopefully they'll be more involved in the future.
Absolutely.
But that happened there. But not only that, there's going to be another one coming up, but it's going to be Disc South. So they have Disc East, obviously East Coast. Now there's going to be one held in Texas, and they're calling it Disc South. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That is coming up soon, obviously before the tour starts. But I don't know, maybe Disc West. I mean, that's what I'm,
We're going for all the cardinal directions.
Yeah.
And then when you have too many, it's like northeast and southwest.
Right? Yeah.
And,
There'll be a whole
slightly
expo
southeast,
tour, maybe an
slightly northwest.
expo tour, I don't know.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
I'd
Call it the Compass Rose
I'd like to see that
tour.
personally.
The Compass Rose tour.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm for it. The more the merrier, right? The more events, I mean, it saturates it a little bit, but before the Pro Tour is probably a good idea.
Yeah.
So I'm for it. In other news, both Nicholas Antala and Evelina Salonen, I don't know why I wanted to stumble on that, attended the 2024 Finnish Sports Gala, and both were nominated for Finnish Sports Personality of the Year award, as I lose the ability to enunciate. Congratulations, though. That's awesome.
We need this to happen more in the U.S.
Absolutely.
We are seeing this, obviously, with Tatar and stuff like that. Like, it's
and
more...
I think there's just a big lack of kind of this type of stuff here. And it's like we kind of talked about on the previous show. I think it was last show even, maybe before. We've talked about it before on the show where it seems almost like the European component takes it more seriously. It's like a bigger thing there than here. And I'd love to kind of see more stuff, like we said, like this kind of stuff, like awards for these different things and highlighting it more and pushing it into kind of the media mainstream even, right?
Yeah.
As it grows. I know it needs to grow. I get it. But I'd love to see more of this. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
So.
I think I don't know. It's good to see that Europeans have always, even since we started way back when, it seems like you said, they're very adamant about improvement and taking things seriously to get better at stuff, and rather than just there's no such thing as a casual round over there,
Right.
It's taken like as a legitimate sport, which it is, but again,
you know what I just thought of?
Was that
we were voting for Tatar. Where's that at?
That is the IW.
Because I know she was up in the top 5 at least, right? I think she was second place.
She made it through to the top 10. And then I believe last time I checked, she was in second by a decent amount, but she was also a decent amount ahead of third. So,
right.
But yeah, that's International World Flying Awards or something.
Something like that, yeah.
It's on the last show.
Go check out our last show.
It's in the note.
Right.
Yeah, and then these as we were saying, like the big events are coming up. We have all this movement. We have Isaac Robinson, his first year at Latitude 64, winning his first event.
Awesome.
What does that say? I mean, obviously,
hey,
it's
I mean,
for him,
good
right?
move.
It's working
right?
for him.
Good move for the both of them.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Speaking of a good move, actually, it's not really a good move. It's a terrible transition. But Gannon Burr wins the Memorial for the third time, making a comeback over Barilla. And from what I hear, it was pretty close, but In the end, Gannon took it because it looks like Bro was struggling towards the end there. Huh?
Yeah, he had a massive final round that just kind of took off.
Put him over the top.
Yeah. I did want to notate on
didn't get to watch it.
On a completely different note, I'm, doing research, whatever you want to call it. I decided to go look at the count of disc golf businesses related to manufacturers, related to discs and targets.
What is that number?
And there are currently, via PDGA, there are 203 active DG companies. To me, that is honestly too much. That's a lot for manufacturers. That's a lot.
For the size that disc golf is, that's an oversaturation.
You're chewing each other apart. It's too much. You're taking away from. I don't know. I just think that's a massive amount.
If they're able to survive, okay, but it does.
I think that's going to
kind of dilute the market a little bit.
I think the inactive amount, which we have notated at 49, I think that number is going to grow significantly over the next couple of years.
Yeah,
because
and
of
if you
this
think about
plateau that we have,
a lot of companies don't even make it past their first year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's a thing, regardless of what your company is, and then take into account that it's an incredibly niche market to enter into, especially at this point.
Oh yeah,
we're definitely going to see that grow.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's interesting though. 203. Wow.
Active. Yeah.
Active, and that's only the ones that are listed via the PDGA.
Yeah, and I'd say 95% of that is disc manufacturers or companies. I can't say manufacturers. I should take that back, because the manufacturer side, you have Discraft making discs for DGA, making discs working with Thought Space Athletics, stuff like that. But DG companies that sell discs or targets, like that's a massive. I couldn't name anywhere near in golf brands, like not even close to that, and they've been around forever. I think there's going to be a workaround of where we see these companies starting to combine with each other or merge in with each other, and have like.
That's what I was going to say.
Like the line, like the Thought Space Athletic
you'll see them merge
line of Discraft, or depending on what brand. It won't be that, because Thought Space works with other brands like MVP and stuff like that.
Right.
But it is. I'm wondering if that ends up being the thing, is where those smaller companies don't necessarily have their own. They have their own brand, but it's more closely connected to the main brand than a separate.
Absolutely, and that kind of problem of too many will organically resolve itself over time.
Yeah, so
it just will.
That'll be
nature of the beast. That's going to happen. But that is an interesting note, though.
Yeah, exactly. So last show or a couple shows ago, we discussed how you have the Go Throw tour that's kind of competitive to DGPT. This is going to be their first year with an actual tour that they're doing. I recently watched some. Now, this isn't their tour related, but it is about the tour down under, and Go Throw was doing coverage of it. And the coverage I saw was the post-produced coverage. If you go to their website or go to their YouTube channel, it's at Go Throw Disc Golf. So you can see some of the Tour Down Under events. Like you said earlier, Chandler Fry won the first event. Big Jerm, actually, which is kind of cool again. Another first-year event for him with a new manufacturer. He won the latest one. So big shout-out to Jerm. But I did want to just what is it? My old mannerisms, right? The coverage was good. The discussion was a little more serious than colorful commentating. There was a little bit, but obviously, again, I'm not trying to take away from anything, because it's their first year doing this, and Luke Humphreys is heading this thing, and you had Tall Paul as the other commentator, Paul Oman, and it was good coverage. I feel like, and this is just me being nitpicky as always, right? That's what I do. If you hate me, nick@discgolfshow.com. Do it. It's yellow and green. Those colors work. But there's no, to me, it's much more mild. There's no pop in the visuals and the, the scoring and all that stuff, all the what am I talking about? The stuff that pops up in the video, right? All that stuff, it's more muted. It's a more muted feel. So I'm curious as to if those little things will change over time.
Probably.
But the coverage itself, very clear, very well done. Like edited was well. It was edited well. So if you haven't checked it out, because it's going to be one of those things that seems like it's going to be a competitor of DGPT. I don't know how drastic, because they are only going to have currently for their tour, not the tour down under, right? But for the Go Throw Tour, there's only 7 events currently. There's a chunk of them that are at the beginning of the year, like March and April. First event is going to be held in Terrell, Texas. It's at Hideaway Disc Golf Invitational. The rest of them are like September, October. So I wonder if they're doing that to maybe work around the majority or the main chunk of the DGPT to not take away, maybe. But that's going to be interesting as to seeing the views that Go Throw gets versus DGPT, because DGPT is they're set. They've been here for a long time now, the 10 years.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting how this Go Throw Tour will affect DGPT, if it will prod them to do some changes or improvements or whatnot, because
probably
people see things from different views, and some of the things that Luke Humphrey sees as needing to be addressed, maybe that's something that's absorbed by DGPT. Hopefully, again, competition breeds improvement, right? That's not the saying, but it's similar, right? So hopefully it does well. One thing I did want to note is that if you go on their ticket prices for Go Throw Tour, currently, this is after tax included, single day passes are $25.63. That cost will range all the way up to a VIP pass at $512.50. It is cool to note kids under 12 are free. That's always awesome to see. You want to get those kids in, and you don't want to have to, make the person purchasing tickets feel like, oh, my kids, they're my kids. So it's cool to see that. Also on there, they do have, which I would love to attend one of these, is the OTB Tour Skins, which has been around a long time now. I try to watch those every time. Those are really, really fun to watch. So I hope some of the aspects, video-wise and all that stuff, translate over to Go Throw Tour. But yeah, those tickets for the OTB Tour Skins and Beat the Pros are going to be $51.25. So those ones, again, like I said, Tour Skins has been around a while. Hopefully this growth into an actual tour for big events is going to provide some good things for the community.
Absolutely. Some other good things that have happened recently is there's been some additional owners added to a certain company, that company being Brixton, and those owners being Macbeth and Ulibarri, which I find is super interesting. So I think Brixton is really taking off, and I'm excited to see kind of what they're going to bring to it. So, because if you have 2 more people jumping into that ownership, that means to me they have some big plans.
Oh, yeah.
And some stuff is going to start moving. And I like this because I like collecting kind of cards anyways, things like that. Right. So the more the merrier here. I would love to see this kind of becoming like the next, baseball card kind of thing. But for disc golf, that'd be really, really cool. I'm excited to see what they're going to bring. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping they did announce that actually at Disc East. So they had some like special packs of new owner packs and stuff like that, which was kind of cool. But yeah, it was good stuff. Final bit of news.
Okay.
This has been the rumor, the latest rumor, the last person of interest of what's happening. Well, today, Ricky Wysocki and Dynamic Discs made posts stating that they are mutually agreeing to part ways for 2025.
Yep.
So,
kind of saw the writing on the wall there, though.
Yeah. Yeah, when he makes posts saying I'm going to be throwing dynamic discs this event. That's
What do you mean?
Come on.
This event?
What do you say this event for? Like you
what do you
just say yeah. What are you alluding to?
Right.
Well, he's alluding to this. So where will he end up? I don't know. Like this is what's crazy. For this to happen, and again with the House of Discs, they've been making massive cuts this last off season. They're definitely dealing with growing pains with consuming or absorbing all these other brands that they have. Castoplast, Discmania, the Trilogy, you have Hand Eye, you've got Huck Lab, you like all these other brands. It's like they I don't know. Maybe it was because of the boom that they saw it. Maybe it's a money grab for the investors that joined in, because now it's kind of back with the owners, you know?
Right.
So there's been that shuffle too. So I don't know. I think they probably went in a little too hot and realized that, it's plateauing now. And, you know, hopefully these things level out, because all those brands have been around a while now. You know, Castoplast, maybe one of the smaller ones, but they've got a cult following. So,
absolutely,
you know, they're not going anywhere. I mean, are we going to see any of these companies from House of Discs break out and separate?
Maybe.
I don't know, but
probably not. With
Ricky Wysocki leaving, he's not going to Discmania. He's not going to Castoplast. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not going to West Side or Latitude. Like, what do you have? Is he going to go open bag? That's an option now.
I mean, that is. I doubt it, but that is.
Disc Golf Deals USA get it. You know, like you have those companies that do, like Drew Gibson. He's sponsored by Infinite. You know, you have these good players, if not top players. Some of them, that is a valid option now. Now, what are you going to get paid from those companies? Because obviously the manufacturers are the ones that are making the majority of the money to be able to sponsor these big names.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen here with him. He's one of the top 5 names in the sport. You know, we'll see, man. We'll see. Do you have any idea of who you think might swoop him up?
I don't know. If I wanted to make a guess, let's go Discraft and then Prodigy. I don't know. I don't know.
I think one of them that could, he could go back to Innova.
Could.
Innova lost Jerm and Climo.
And it would be a good point or a good opportunity right now, at least timing wise, to probably go back there. But
he was with them before.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
It depends on why they parted ways to begin with. So
yeah. I don't know, man.
We'll see.
That's a crazy one. Hopefully, we'll get some good information before next episode, because
absolutely
now that's the big story. Really, is where will Ricky land?
Where will Ricky land? Being the big story. You know what's another big story, Nick?
What's that?
Subscribing to the Disc Golf Show on YouTube. That's a big story, and we'd really appreciate it as soon as we hit that magical number. We're going to be doing a giveaway.
So close.
We're very, very close. So you know what? Go hit the subscribe button if you like the show and you want to see more. With that being said, let's roll into our new segment. New, called Disc Golf Conversation. I am. That's right. In this newish segment, this is the conversation around disc golf, and this doesn't have to be a conversation between just Nick and me.
I know that
it could be a conversation with you.
I know that was for me. I know that was.
It was. It definitely was. That was the whole idea behind it. If you want to know the truth, but if you'd like to participate, there's many ways that you can. And when we get down into the section, a new section called Mailbag, right? Foreshadowing poorly. We'll talk about that and all those different ways that you can. But up first, what should we talk about, Nick? What's our first question that we're going to conversate around?
Well, I mean, actually discussing our some of the news topics that we hit. Do you feel that moving manufacturers is a big has a big effect on how people play the first year? Because we have Isaac and Jerm who switch sponsors, big names, and do you think that's a significant aspect of them coming out hot, or do you think it's just coincidental?
I think it's interesting in that I want to say, and I would love to kind of see data around this too. I could see it kind of going both two ways. One, since all the discs are kind of newish to you, you do a little bit worse than you normally would. But probably where, you know, the pros probably come, and it depends too on how much time they dedicate to it. But when they're learning all these new discs, they got to throw them a lot to really figure out what disc does what and how it performs for them and what kind of weight and all those kinds of things of the stuff that they're going to throw in their bag. So that might lead to better performance just because they've had more time and practice during that off season to prepare them into, you know, the pro tour events, right? Using that as like the season, right, of play. So I'd love to see data around that though, because in my mind, that kind of makes sense to me, right? You'd have to put in more practice because you have to learn that line of discs. So in that first year switch over, you might even come out of the gate even hotter that year. But again, I don't know. I have no data to support that, but I can see it going two ways.
Little data is that when Burr went to Discmania last year, he smashed Simon.
My God, are you still talking?
He won a few DGP events. So maybe there is something to that where it's like, it's so fresh and the excitement of it gets them in that headspace.
Sure.
You know, that thoughtless headspace where it's just like, okay, I've been practicing with this new line of discs for 2 months, just nonstop to dial in my bag, and I'm confident in my bag right now. Obviously, there will be.
I'd love to see more data around that.
Yeah.
You know, we have a few examples, but you really need like a pool to give you that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know, but would be interesting to see. I don't know. That would be my thoughts too.
Yeah. And
like Jerm said, it brings that kind of excitement and that, you know, that thing, right? Back to it, like your care factor goes up. It's no longer that lull.
Yeah.
You're kind of getting back into it because it's this new, fresh thing.
Well, and
revitalizes you, rejuvenates you.
With his experience, he did state that, like, with all the things that MVP, Axiom, Streamline can do with their overmolds and the flight plates, there's so much customization to that. So not only do they have a bunch of different plastics for the flight plate, they have different plastics for the rim, you know, for the gyro rim. So they have so many different abilities to customize it for the player. I think MVP is probably one of the, it's not lesser known for sure, but like they're in the top, I would say they're probably in the top 3. I would say, I'd say it's pretty close. Like Innova, Discraft, MVP.
Sure.
Especially currently with House Discs kind of, you know, having their problems, stuff like that. But yeah. All right. Another question for you. Because this is kind of related, I guess, kind of, sort of, the off-season stuff.
All right.
In what ways do you think competitors can help themselves, game, mentally, whatever, in the off season while they're not, once they get out of tour? Do you have any, do you think that there are certain things that they should think about, that they should dial in on for the next upcoming season? And what would those be?
In my mind, the way I would probably go about it is obviously you should have some kind of regimen, right, that you're doing, right? Working out, preparing for that thing, which should probably continue to go, you know, on throughout the season, depending on what it is, but probably more rigorous during the off season, right? And then really probably what I would focus on if I was at that level is, what did I suck at last year, right? Or what are things do I think I could improve going into this year? Like, hey, you know, my accuracy of driving was kind of off. Let's work on that a lot this year. Or okay, putting needs to get a little love, right, from a certain distance, angle, whatever. So I think naturally that's probably what most pros would probably gravitate towards, because that's common sense to me, right? Like, work on the stuff that you need to work on.
Yeah.
You played last year.
Yeah.
Work on that stuff. But maintenance is a big thing, and I think we've seen the results in past years. When the whole disc golf workout regimen thing was kind of being, I don't know, maybe rediscovered at that point, but at least discovered for me, right? Where we had the Simon Lizottes, we had the Eagles, they were all doing this thing for, it seemed like, the first time, and it was an official thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they're going into an actual workout plan designed around disc golf. I think that kind of stuff kind of just needs to continue, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do as the pro. You invest in your game that way.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Yeah.
And taking some time off too. Let's not shy around that, right? Like the mental aspect of the game of being able to enter into that competitive headspace again requires a little bit of time off to recoup that, right?
Yeah. No, for
you need that little bit of time away, so that's important too. And that's why I think the off season is important, not only to work on stuff and improve on things, but take that break a little bit, right? If you're playing in stuff, it's a little lower stakes.
Yeah.
Right. Than the Pro Tour. So I think that's important.
For sure. I mean, we touched on the last one. We don't need to go over that.
Right. We don't need to go over that again. Yeah. But I do want to throw this out there to the kind of community at large, or those that are listening to the show. What would you like to see on the Disc Golf Show channel? We have some ideas in place, but do you want to see more maybe poll related topics on YouTube, where you're getting involved and able to give kind of your opinions that way? We've tried out different things in the past to get more community involvement, but we want to hear from you. What do you think? And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that, and we'll touch on that here in just a little bit, but we're looking for some feedback that way. So if you feel so inclined, leave a comment down below, or use one of the other methods like our email or whatever, to let us know what would you like to see going into this new year of the show. And speaking of new year, new show, there's a new segment, and it's called Gear and Equipment. What was the opening?
What?
It was a disc golf bag. It was a disc golf bag. This segment is actually brought to you by discgolfdealsusa.com. Click down below or look in the show notes for that affiliate link that you can use to save yourself 10% off of your purchase from discgolfdealsusa.com. We thank them for sponsoring this segment of the show, and maybe some stuff coming out here in the future. Stay tuned to the social media, and it will be on YouTube. So far, gear and equipment. We're going to bring this into the show and just talk about gear and equipment that's been released, that's been approved, stuff that we find interesting kind of within the segment, because, let's face it, we're disc golfers. We like the next thing, right? It's like buying the disc golf club. What's the next disc that's coming out? What's the next target? What's the next bag? All the cool stuff. And that's kind of where we'll highlight some of that stuff here as we go. There's been a lot of stuff released this year already. Since about January 6th on, there's been tons of releases, tons of approvals. That's kind of what we'll focus on here, at least for this part of the show. For the very first one is what has been approved since the beginning of the year. And to answer that question, lots of stuff. We have native discs, which was new last year. To the scheme of different manufacturers and companies releasing and approving, getting discs approved. They've had a ton of stuff approved. They've had, at least 3-4 different discs. They've had a championship level basket approved called the Dream Catcher, which is actually pretty cool. If you go on the PDGA website and you look at the approvals, it's the one that they put up in the pictures is green, and it has the Native American Dream Catcher kind of design around the top of the band of the basket. It's kind of cool looking. I like it. I'm all for the new targets, because we don't get a lot of those, and I think there needs to be some improvements there. So more competition, the better, in my opinion, so we can get to a more refined state of our catchers, or maybe some standards. We'll see. Mint discs, and I thought this was kind of interesting, has their mystery box disc approved as well by the PDGA. And what I find interesting about these is, just like the one that was last year and the years before it, they're a mystery, some of them don't even say what they are even after you get them. So it's interesting that they're using that concept. Like, here's the mystery disc. It's been approved.
Oh my!
But you don't know what it is. I don't know. I kind of like that. I don't know. You're like, I just like this mystery disc. I mean, for marketing wise, I don't know if that's a great tactic unless you're selling the mystery disc all the time.
Yeah.
Because you can't just go into like, oh, my buddy has a mint. Like, you don't know. I'll take the mystery disc. Oh, but what year? This year. Well, are they all the same? I don't know. I'm assuming. We don't know. You can't tell. But I do think it's kind of interesting and a unique opportunity to have a unique disc. We have other normal stuff, and I mean normal. It's the companies that have been around forever, right? You have your Infinite Discs, your Dynamic Discs, your Discraft coming out with stuff. Discraft came actually out with their, was it Cigara, which is the Anthony Barella's disc, the cicada. How would I say this? Cicada.
Overstable.
That big nasty looking bug.
Yeah.
That makes that weird noise. So that modified overstableness, they've, I guess, redone and re-released it underneath that new name, the Spanish name for it, it looks like. Also, recently been approved, and this is really cool because I need to get my hands on some of these discs, and maybe we just did. Videos to come is the Climo Disc Golf discs. He had the Champ, the Bel Air, and the Sky approved. Oh, what do you got there? What are you holding up on camera?
What?
YouTube.com/disc golf show. If you want to see that, if you're listening, you want to check out the visual there. But that was the putter, the mid-range, and the driver there, respectively. So interesting. They've been approved. It's all official, and videos to come later. Other things that are cool: a new disc manufacturer, Color Your Game, has had the brushstroke, the eraser, and the modify all recently approved. I love the idea and the naming convention. They're using all the artistic terms, right? The stuff where you can scroll down all the tools in Photoshop, right? Oh yeah. Your brush, your eraser. Oh, I can modify the. Well, I love the whole naming convention. I love that. Stick with it. Just like what is it? The Bernoulli discs, and they have all the. Anyways. That's about it. I mean, we could go into detail on every single one of these, but you don't want to listen to that.
It's a lot.
Go check out the PDGA approved. There's tons of them, and maybe if I can find some time in my schedule, we'll get those deep dive videos back in on all the approvals that come in. So, but don't hold your breath. Anyways, let's jump into our next section, which is going to be real quick, but let's play it. Ken, are you listening? This is your segment. So in this section, we're going to talk about some interesting stuff. Ken is going to be joining the show. We'll introduce him at a later date, probably the next show. Ken, we got to have you on. This is your segment. But we're going to be talking about fantasy disc golf because that's going to be important, right? If you play fantasy disc golf. We had a lot of fun with this last year, and Ken cleaned some house. Let's just say it how it is. He cleaned some house.
He dominated.
So
what he did. Yeah.
He did. And there are some very particular strategies that were utilized to mop the floors with us. And we'd want to bring him in as a subject matter expert, if you will, on the fantasy series of disc golf. Give you some tips, give you some pointers. His segment, we'll let him take it away.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll be having him on the show, probably next show. Also, some things that we'll probably mention in the section 2 are the upcoming events that might be pertinent to your fantasy disc golf league or not. Depends on your league, right? What they include in terms of how they set it up. What events? Is it only going to be pro tours? Is it going to be these certain local events? All kinds of things. As we can kind of see from a lot of the different fantasy disc golf leagues that are out there, they're continually improving and adding more and more capability and things that you can do. So I'm sure Ken will probably talk about that next show, but we'll use this kind of section going forward for that, and then to announce those events that are coming out. Which, do we have any events, Nick?
Yeah, we do.
That are coming up that people should pay attention to?
Like you said, this will be good because he'll be able to address the events that are upcoming and what he sees as what tactics are best to choosing your players for that specific event. You know, whether it's a wooded course, if you want to go with your more touchy players, or if it's a big open course, you want to go with your power throw. He'll have all that stuff. Currently, there's a couple things. First is the All-Star. From what I hear, there's going to be 2 All-Star events this year for Pro Tour. So there's the first one, 2025 All-Star Challenge. It's scheduled for February 27th, and it is going to be held in Brooksville, Florida. Weather being a reason why, because, you know, it's Florida. So
It's Florida.
Although I did see they had some snow down there. But hopefully not.
Pensacola, too.
Yeah. The other thing, just getting ahead of the game on this, this is a big thing every year. There's a 2025 Women's Disc Golf Week, and that for this year, 2025, is going to be May 17th through the 25th. So mark that on your calendar if you have done those events in the past, or if you want to try it for the first time this year. Right now, that's about it for February, because the tour starts right after the All-Star event, literally the 28th.
Right after the All-Star event.
So,
yeah, that'll be interesting.
oh, yeah.
It'll be interesting to watch. Can't wait for that one.
Yes.
So another thing I can't wait on is this next section. Mail call. That's right. It's the mailbag section of the show where we want to feature you, the listener, the watcher on the show. And how are we going to do that? Well, in eons past, back in the day when we used to do the show, we had a segment like this where we played voicemails and talked about like the different feedback and questions that were sent in to us from the listeners. And we want to kind of bring that back up to you. So a couple of different ways that you can do that. One, I'm thinking about figuring out a way to do the voicemail thing again. So stay tuned to the social medias and the things, and we'll probably announce it on the show as well once we have that set up, if I can figure that out again, or a clean way to do it, we'll say. And then, you know, there's always Facebook, things like that you guys are awesome about anyways, giving your opinions and sharing stuff with us there. But also you can send us an email at theshow@discgolfshow.com with your feedback that you want us to kind of show on the show, to read out loud. Question that you want to ask us, or, you know, you just have general feedback that, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, Nick, he should just really take a back seat. Justin's the best, you know, things like that. If you want to, you know, send it our way, feel free to do so. Or any of the questions that we really talk about with each other on the show about conversations around disc golf. Do you have an idea about any of those things, right? Do you have, I don't know, your 2 cents that you want to throw in for what ways do you think competitors can help themselves in the off season? We'd love to hear it, basically, even in the comments down below on the YouTube episode, as it were. We'd love seeing those comments as well. So keep it up.
Yeah. If you disagree vehemently with me, just
Nick at discgolf.com.
Let me know.
He prints those out, quilts himself a blanket out of them so that it keeps him warm at night. So keep Nick warm at night. Send him hate mail. I think that pretty much does it for the show. A couple quick reminders and some ways to save money, because who doesn't love saving money? This show first is sponsored in part by Final Nine Sports with their 2 locations, one in Rocklin, one in Orange Vale. Why do I keep doing that? I combine the 2 for some reason. Anyways, you know what I mean. And if you can't support them, support your local shop. But let's say you can't even do that. New sponsor of the show, Disc Golf Deals USA. If you go there, use our affiliate link code that'll be in the show notes and all the kind of stuffs and descriptions and all that fun stuff, depending on where you're listening or watching from. You'll save yourself 10% if you use that code. Who doesn't want to save money? Do that. Let's say you're in the market for a new disc golf bag or some swag from Upper Park Disc Golf. You're on their website. You're shopping around and you want to save yourself some money. Well, guess what? We have a way that you can do that. Use the code DiscGolfShow, see what we're doing there, to save yourself 15% off of your entire purchase upon checkout at Upper Park Disc Golf. That is pretty much it for the show. We mentioned all those things, how you can get a hold of us and send us your hate mail at theshow@discgolfshow.com. Utilize that. We'd love to see it, love to hear it, love to read it, and love to keep Nick warm at night. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe if you want a chance to enter yourself into that giveaway that's coming up in here soon. We're real close. We're real close.
Yes.
So help us out there. You can always unsubscribe later, but don't, because Nick will find you. And remember, in disc golf as in life, aim high and let it fly.